All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really wide-ranging and frankly, highly politically charged interview with Senator Pauline Hanson. Whether you follow Australian politics religiously or you're just kind of curious about how modern political messaging is evolving, this source material is absolutely fascinating. We are going to look strictly at our core arguments, entirely without the spin, so we can really understand the strategies and beliefs driving her current momentum. Now, listen to this quote right from this senator herself. That statement, that perfectly sets the tone for everything we're about to cover. It introduces her ongoing, all-out war against traditional media gatekeepers. She made it crystal clear that she feels totally misrepresented by legacy media outlets, arguing that they constantly twist her words to fit their own narratives. But here's the really interesting part. She's not playing their game anymore. She is literally walking away from the traditional broadcast table. To make sense of it all, we're breaking her arguments down into 4 key themes: the media and cancel culture, defining Australian culture, immigration and radical Islam, and finally, political strategy and polls. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the media and cancel culture. So we start with Hanson's reaction to Australian TV host Carl Stefanovic leaving Channel 9. In the interview, she points fingers directly at a segment Stefanovic did with the controversial UK figure Tommy Robinson. In her eyes, Channel 9 has basically gone completely woke. She lays the blame for Stefanovic's departure entirely on network executives caving to pushback rather than just letting a broadcaster interview a controversial figure and letting the public decide for themselves. She's arguing that alternative voices are systematically being shut down. She points to organized objection groups, specifically calling out the mad effing witches, who she says threaten sponsors just to silence conservative voices. You know, she lumps networks like Channel 9, 7, and the ABC all together, insisting that their journalists care way more about gotcha moments and doctored narratives than they do about open debate and actual free speech. And here's the kicker: over 1 million. That is her Facebook following, and it's exactly why she's just bypassing those traditional networks altogether. I mean, to put that in perspective, compare her million-plus followers to a mainstream political minister's 21,000. It's night and day. She feels she doesn't need to put up with the media spin anymore because she can take her message straight to the voters through social media and long-form audio. Moving right along to Section 2, defining Australian culture. Here's where she draws a massive line in the sand. Hanson argues that multiculturalism actually fractures society into what she calls tribalism. She claims it even leads to unequal treatment in the courts based on someone's cultural background. So what's her alternative? Monoculturalism. And actually, she's quick to note that this isn't about race. She points out she has multiracial candidates, but rather it's about everyone being completely united under a single set of rules and a single constitution. Building on that idea, what does true assimilation look like to her? Well, she heavily prioritizes English language proficiency. Basically, she says you just can't properly participate in a democracy if you don't understand the language. She also emphasizes embracing local customs and having this shared national pride, using the example of everyone, no matter their background, rallying together in the green and gold at the Olympics. For her, immigrants need to adapt to Australia, not the other way around. Okay, let's pivot to Section 3. Immigration and radical Islam. Now, Hanson lists out some very specific and highly debated grievances to explain her vehement opposition to radical Islam. We're talking about things like Sharia law, the oppression of women, multiple marriages, and child brides. In her view, these practices are just fundamentally incompatible with Western values. And she argues that successive governments have basically just turned a blind eye, allowing these things to quietly take root right in Australian suburbs. Which naturally brings us to a really intense security debate. She asks the hard question regarding the repatriation of Australian ISIS brides from overseas camps. Are they a threat? Her take is that it is almost impossible to de-radicalize individuals, and potentially their kids, who've been steeped in an ideology where martyrdom is seen as the ultimate goal. That belief is exactly why she is demanding incredibly strict screening for anyone entering the country. But hang on, it's super important to catch the nuance she presents here. When the interviewer really pressed her, Hanson explicitly stated she does not have a problem with Muslims in general. Actually, she even personally approached and thanked Ahmed al-Ahmed, the Muslim hero from the tragic Bondi attacks, for his bravery. So she draws this very strict, hard line specifically at radical Islamic ideology, while openly praising Islamic citizens who contribute positively to society. Finally, we hit Section 4, political strategy and polls. First off, it turns out politics is becoming a bit of a family affair. Hanson confirmed that her daughter Lee is deeply involved in the party machinery right now. She actually took a huge pay cut from her previous career to work behind the scenes. And the senator let slip that Lee has some serious ambition to snag a Senate seat for One Nation down in Tasmania, showing they're trying to build a real multi-generational presence. And that brings up a really fascinating structural question. Will Hanson herself switch houses? The interviewer pushed her hard on whether she'd use all this current polling momentum to jump ship from the Senate and run for a lower house seat. Because as you probably know, by political convention, you kind of need to be in the House of Representatives if you ever want a shot at prime ministerial power. Looking at her potential electoral map, Hanson hints that she might target central Queensland seats, places like Oxley, Blair, or Capricornia, areas where she's actually already looking to build a property. But when the interviewer jokingly suggested she challenge the current prime minister in his inner-city Sydney seat of Grandler, oh man, she gave a loud absolute no way in the wide world. So yeah, a Sydney sea change is definitely off the table, for sure. Ultimately, unpacking this source material gives us a front-row seat to the brand-new political playbook. We are literally watching major political figures walk right past traditional press conferences to do unedited, direct-to-voter audio, where they can talk at length to hundreds of thousands of people. It's a real game-changer. It leaves us with a huge question to ponder. As politicians increasingly bypass mainstream media gatekeepers, how is this going to completely reshape the future of our elections and our democratic process? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep questioning how the information you consume is delivered.